So today, what really interested me about the interview that I heard was the owner financing piece, that you kind of transitioned at one point, and you've been known as like the owner finance guy, and that, you're really good at that. And I'd love to dive into that, because that's a strategy that we haven't really talked about a lot in this community, and I'd love to get more information on. So, but before we jump into that, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background and how you got to financial freedom through doing all of this.
Well, I didn't go to college, so I kind of had a glass ceiling. I went to college, but I just didn't fit there. And then I found out my professor made $60,000 a year, and I said, "There's no way in hell I'm paying to listen to a guy who makes $60,000 a year, and people get to tell him what to do." So I just, it didn't make any sense. Like if I'm paying to listen to someone, they better be making like $1 million net, It sounds arrogant, but it really isn't. If that's what you want to do, is be financially free as quick as possible and as much as possible.
Makes sense.
So, a lot of people go, "Well, I'm broke." Well, how do you get, how did you do so well? And it's like, well, I studied how people make money. When was the last time you sat down and Googled and started researching and went to a seminar on how to make money and how to proliferate? Well, never. Well, that's why you don't have any money. It's hard to learn how to drive a race car if you don't get in a race car and start driving around a track. So I got 25 rental houses. I'm not bashing rental houses. I know that's, a lot of people, that's their gig, and I get it. And maybe I was just like the worst landlord ever in the history of the world, which I'm pretty sure was the case. I needed to find something that didn't require those skills, because I obviously lacked them. But I had 25 rentals. I was supposed to make $7,500 a month net, or about $300 a house, between what I owed and what I collected. And I ended up making like nothing, because just the bare bones of it is one is, when you have debt underneath, and it's hard to make the money on the spread, because one air conditioner for $2,500 or $3,000 can cost most of your year, if not all your year, depending on what your rents are. And so I wanted out of the business, and so I took my last $10,000 and was trying to get out of the business without ruining my good name, because I had borrowed all this money from government, FHA. I had 1,000 FHA. I had 25 FHA homeowner loans. I was way in the red over there. I was in the danger zone. Like every time I applied for a house, it was going to be my homestead.
Yeah. You moved a lot.
Yeah, I moved every month.
Yeah.
And the guy came in. He had 500 houses free and clear, and he sold his houses, about half of them rentals and half of them owner finance. But he only did rentals for 1 year so he could avoid the short-term capital gains and get into long-term capital gains. And then he would sell them owner finance as soon as the leasee crapped out on him, or moved, or quit paying on time. Whenever it became a problem, as long as they were paying, he kept them as renters. If they didn't ever miss and didn't complain and they were good people, then he just left them. But as soon as he got them back after a year, he would owner finance them. And so it wasn't, 24 years ago, $10,000 was more than it is now. But when it's your last $10,000, it's everything you got. And I gave him the $10,000, and he showed me how to collect $3,000 down on all my houses, which were about $35,000 houses at the time. Mm-hmm. And Indiana still has those kind of houses, I'm aware.
Absolutely.
You have like San Antonio and Indiana have about the most affordable houses on the planet that aren't in war zones. So I got $75,000 in down payments in about 60, 90 days. That was more money than I'd ever seen in one place in my entire life. And it was my money. It was a down payment. It wasn't a refundable deposit. And then I sold them at prices where the spread was about the same, $300 a month. And instead of making zero, even I didn't think I was going to collect the whole $7,500 a month. I was saying if I could just collect $3,000 of that $7,500 that I'm supposed to get on paper, I just wanted half of it. I didn't even collect half of it. So now I went from not even collecting any of it, or even $3,000 of that $7,500, to collecting the whole $7,500 every month. And I didn't have to give any of it back because if the air conditioner broke, it wasn't my house. So that's how. Nothing in my life is really planned. I just go into life with a lot of vigor, and I jump in 100, and then I figure out what I was really supposed to do, and then I backtrack or adjust, and then I get it. But the secret to my life has been is just jumping in with all you got, 2 feet, and then figure out what you did wrong, which is not a very good plan. You really should have had a mentor. If I'd have known to have a mentor, I could have saved myself a lot of grief. Not sure that I was smart enough to listen to anyone, back then.
So, well, that was that you did listen to someone. Obviously, you found this guy who.
After I got my ass kicked, and I was like, this big monumental mountain was like, man, you owe a lot of money, and the money's not coming in right, and you're actually paying to own these houses. I was a great big don't wanter,
Yeah. So if somebody, I'm sorry. So if somebody is listening to this and they are in the same situation, they're getting their ass kicked by their rentals, and they thought they'd get $300 a month of free and clear cash flow, and it's all the maintenance is eating that up. What's the first step that you would tell them if they wanted to start owner financing some of their properties? Do they talk to their current tenant, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, if you're not getting paid by your current tenant and your land, no sense in having him pay a mortgage. He's going to pay the same way. Yeah. Or if they're tearing the house down, or they're just not responsible people. I mean, the first thing that you do is you got to study that strategy. That strategy is not, it's not very common. As a matter of fact, for the longest time, I was the only one talking about it that I knew of. I always know there's someone else out there. There's always a faster gun. There's always a stronger person. There's always a guy doing more volume. I know that for sure. I mean, that's always the case. You may be on top for a little while, but there's always the up and comer, but for a long time, and I'm not even sure to this day who does more than 100 owner financed houses a day on a 30-year fixed mortgage, no balloon, no requirement to go get refinanced in any period of time. I hope you never pay me off. I wish. The problem with the model, if there is a problem with the model, is that no one ever goes 30 years. I mean, the average note is they're paying me off within 7, 8, 9, 10 years. But the magic of having a 30-year note is they still owe you pretty much what if they pay you off in the first 5 years, they haven't really paid anything down. And a 30-year note, the first 3 years, maybe they dropped $3,000. On a $100,000 note, maybe they still owe you $97,000 in 3 years. So that's why I picked 30 years. When I was early in my career, I wanted 15-year notes and 20-year notes because I needed to build my cash flow. And of course, the shorter the term, the higher the cash flow was, the higher their payment was, so that I could get financially free from my job faster. So I was trying to get that $3,500 a month to come in as fast as I could. And so in the early days, I was trying to get people that wanted to pay, instead of paying $400 for 30 years, they pay me $600 for 15 years, because I needed that extra $200. Every $200 counted. I needed $3,500 to get out of my job.
Got it.
As soon as I got out of my job and I got stabilized and it was good, it's like, I would rather have 200 less in 15 more years of 400. Do the math.
Hey, hope you enjoyed this portion of the interview with Mitch Stevens. This guy is a wealth of knowledge. If you want to check out the full podcast interview, you can listen to it on any podcast player. It's the Living Off Rentals podcast. Also, you can go over to Facebook and check out the Living Off Rentals Facebook community. I know you'll get a ton of value out of that. It's a super engaged community, and I hang out there. A lot of other really smart rental property investors hang out there. I hope to see you there. If not, I will see you in the next video.